Hello, this is Melinda Malcore, and this podcast is about respiration. Now, respiration is really necessary because your body needs a way of exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide with the outside environment, and this occurs through a liquid medium, which is your blood. Now, oxygen and carbon dioxide are both participants in the cell respiration equation. Oxygen is necessary to oxidize glucose, and carbon dioxide is a waste product of that equation. So your cells are constantly needing an infusion of oxygen, and they're needing a way to get rid of this buildup of carbon dioxide. Now, how this works is inside the lungs, there are these air sacs called alveoli. And the alveoli is where the gas exchange actually occurs. Exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the capillaries of the lungs and the air of the outside environment. Now, the breathing mechanism actually is a two-step process. The first step is inspiration, and the second step is expiration. During inspiration, a muscle below the lungs called the diaphragm contracts, which actually pulls the lungs down. This expands the volume of the lungs. They get bigger. And when the lungs get bigger, the pressure inside the lungs, the air pressure, gets smaller. Because there's less pressure inside the lungs, air is actually pulled into the lungs. This is called negative pressure breathing, this pulling of air from higher pressure outside to an area of lower pressure, which is inside the lungs. During expiration, that same muscle, the diaphragm, relaxes, and this allows the lungs to get smaller again. Now, when the lungs get smaller, the pressure inside them of the air increases, and this pushes the air back up and out of the lungs. So inspiration, air is drawn in, and in expiration, air is actually pushed out. This is called negative pressure breathing. And that's what we as humans do, and also most mammals, actually all mammals do negative pressure breathing. Gas exchange is actually going to occur in the capillaries of the lungs, and this works through partial pressure. Both oxygen and carbon dioxide have their own partial pressures, and where there's more oxygen, oxygen is going to have a higher partial pressure in that area, and where there's less oxygen, oxygen is going to have a lower partial pressure. And the same thing is true of carbon dioxide. Where there's more carbon dioxide, there's a higher partial pressure of carbon dioxide. And when there's less carbon dioxide, there is a lower partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Now let's think about it. Where is there typically less oxygen? Inside the atmospheric air or inside the capillaries of the lungs? Well, obviously the capillaries of the lungs need to pick up oxygen. So inside the capillaries, there is a low partial pressure of oxygen. It's less than the atmospheric partial pressure of oxygen. So oxygen will actually diffuse. It'll go down its concentration gradient from where there is more oxygen to where there's less oxygen. So it will diffuse into the capillaries, into the blood. Now, carbon dioxide is exactly the opposite. It's going to go down its concentration gradient from where there's more carbon dioxide to where there's less carbon dioxide. So it's going to go from the blood and out into the environment. So it goes from where there is a higher partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the blood to where there is a lower partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the environment of the lungs. All right, thank you very much, and that's the end of my podcast.